Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
BrainShare Business Mentors proudly presents BrainShare.us, the ultimate business education platform, delivering the proven systems, processes, tools, and knowledge that empower you to build the business of your dreams. With 13 high-powered courses encompassing over 240 lessons accessed online on your schedule. Running a business is the hardest thing you'll ever do. We've helped thousands of business owners gain the leadership, communication, and business skills needed to build the business of their dreams. We can help you. Choose your learning path. Scuba Squad is the premier membership program for today's business leaders with access to all BrainShare material and double our money-back guarantee. BrainShare Basics, the ultimate business framework course, a hard-hitting 13-week program to lay the necessary foundation to build the business of your dreams. Or take individual courses as you need them. Every course has dozens of lessons, with video, practical exercises, precise documentation, and the opportunity for direct feedback from a BrainShare mentor. All programs have our exclusive 30-day money-back guarantee. No questions asked, don't wait. Choose your path and start today.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. Doing business and life with a purpose, serving others and achieving success. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and we created this show for you because we want everyone to be motivated, inspired, and educated to learn how to do business and live life to make an impact in the world. How will you serve today, and what impact will you create today? I want to thank my two sponsors, BrainShare.us and PitchDB.com. BrainShare.us, you can build a business that works without you. Discover how to create a self-sustaining business that thrives even in your absence. You can have business that doesn't tie you down, will guide you through the steps to build an enterprise that operates smoothly without your constant oversight. And PitchDB.com. Imagine that you can speak at a potential 11,000 conferences, be a guest on 3 million podcasts, and even have a newspaper or a magazine do an article on you. PitchDB will do that. And I'll put the show notes, the links to all these different sponsors. Now, I mentioned impact in the monologue. This guy's making an impact because he's broken it down to the simplest things. I love simple, and common goal is as simple as can be. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve, I'm really happy to be here, and I'm actually happy to share with your listeners some of the more exciting things. My favorite part of these interviews is before the podcast, so I'm glad we can let all this organically come out.
Yeah, me too, because we got to know each other. And I told you I'm big about building relationships, serving before selling. Let's talk about common goal in regards to those two things.
Sure. So, I mean, common goal. I wouldn't have had common goal without my experience of getting into a snowboarding accident. So, if it's not if it's not too much trouble, I can take everyone back to that day. When I was in 8th grade, I was actually on my way to the mountain with my friends, and it was always an exciting thing. You get released a little bit early. Whenever we were going to ski club on Wednesdays, ski club Wednesdays, we called it. So we were on the way to the mountain, getting ready on the bus, so we wouldn't miss a precious moment once we got to the mountain. And then we got to the mountain, and as soon as we got there, we headed right for the top, where the rest of the class migrated inside to waste time and get ready. We wanted to get all the runs in that we could. So we were going up, and we noticed that it was very icy, Steve, because it had been raining. So people were wiping out everywhere. and the chairlift went right over the terrain park where all of the jumps were. And I knew as soon as I saw it that I had to go off the biggest jump in the terrain park. There was no doubt in my mind. So once we got to the top, buckled into my snowboard, took a breath of that crisp winter air, and confidently charged towards that jump with all my speed. And then going up to the jump, I caught the edge of my snowboard on the snow going up to the jump, and that kind of threw me off balance. Really, that was the last thing that I remember. And I was told that I landed on my head. I wasn't wearing a helmet. So I later learned details of this day, and based on eyewitness accounts, family, people who were there, of what happened throughout the rest of the day. So I later learned that the only protection that my head had was a pair of goggles that I was wearing. So no helmet and my goggles. Now I wore a pretty big pair of goggles with a lot of padding, and that was the only thing. I learned that when I made the initial impact, not only did they brace my fall, but as I kept rolling down the mountain and kept hitting my head, my goggles mysteriously moved to cushion each blow. Mysteriously or not so mysteriously, depending on what you believe. You and I were talking about faith a little bit before the episode, and I believe everything happens for a reason. So that was the first thing from that day. The second thing was they wanted to bring a helicopter to the mountain to bring me to the hospital, to life flight me to the hospital. They couldn't because it was too windy, so they had to send in an ambulance. Out of all the paramedics in the area, in the county, there was only one who could intubate right on the spot, and I needed that to be able to breathe. And he was one of the paramedics that showed up to the mountain that day. The third thing, this is really played a key part in the reason why I'm here today is when I was in the ICU after that. After I got to the hospital, I was resting in the intensive care unit. Out. They said, based on the impact alone, I probably would have been out for 7 to 10 days. However, the swelling was such in my brain that they were afraid if it increased anymore, I would wake up and I would panic and I'd worry, what am I doing here? Where am I? Who are you people? And the swelling would go up and I would have died. So they had to partially induce me into a coma. And I was really fortunate that I had the family that I have, because when the doctors walked into my room to tell my parents the news, and as you can imagine, Steve, at the beginning, it was not so positive, not so positive, and not so positive every time they came in. Well, they came in, they didn't think anything of it. They started to share with my parents the news. Listen, he was in an accident, and my mom stopped them. She said, no, not in front of him, because she understood that even though I was in a coma and I was unable to communicate with anyone, I was still taking in information. So she made the doctors step outside, and then once outside, that's where they shared that, look, he's in a coma. We don't know how long he's going to be in the coma, and even if he's going to come out. And even if he does come out, there's a good chance that he's probably not going to be able to walk, talk, or eat on his own ever again. And my parents took this information and they thanked the doctors for the information and then just proceeded as business as usual. So I didn't know, none of this entered my sphere, whether subconsciously, subconsciously, unconsciously, it didn't enter my universe. So I didn't know any of this. So what this allowed me to do is I was in the coma for 3 weeks, and then I came out. I really don't remember a month though. So after a month, I was transported to a rehab hospital. And what that allowed me to do is, once I was aware of my surroundings and the work that was left in front of me, I was just able to get up, do the best that I could, and get better every day. So it was along this time that I really started to unknowingly utilize a system. And that's what I teach to this day, both from stage and with the clients that I work with one-on-one. That's the STEP system. STEP is an acronym. It stands for support. Support, you have to make sure you have the support of your family and friends around you. And this is going to have you falling back on relationships that you built prior to your setback. Then T is trust. Trust that once you take your first step, your next step is always going to be available to you. And then also, this is trusting that voice, that calling that you have inside of yourself. And we all have it. So the way that I like to illustrate this is right after being transferred to the rehab hospital in Boston, I could overhear my parents talking with the doctors and saying, all right, what do we need to do to make sure Nick makes a full recovery? I heard in the back of my head, no, you're going to run out. So then running out of the hospital became our common goal. And what we were meeting with the doctors, the therapists, the nurses every week to make sure that I reached that our common goal of running out of the hospital. And unknowingly, I was utilizing this system. So E is energy, and energy. You have to maintain your energy and make sure that you have your energy, because without your energy, without your body's natural energy, you're not able to impact and influence others. So the way that I always like to talk about energy, a few things here, and I still work on my energy to this day, Steve, but when I was in the coma, so this is totally without my knowledge, my parents had someone come in and perform Reiki on me. So this is something that was happening even before I had any input. So they had someone come in and perform Reiki on me. And then, as I mentioned, it was a partially induced coma. However, once I came off the drugs and the medication completely, and I needed that to survive, it wasn't like I could say, no, I want to do all natural medicine right now to recover from being in a coma. I needed that to exist. So after I came out of that, in my recovery, I can remember this, and I was in a wheelchair. I still hadn't been cleared to walk, and I would always have either my dad or a male family member, my dad, an uncle, several uncles pitched in and did this, or my grandfather stay the night with me in a cot next to my bed. So I got up in the middle of the night, and I couldn't get the attention of my grandfather to help me to the bathroom because I wasn't cleared to walk yet. So I hobbled to the bathroom, and I was able to make it okay, and there was no accidents or anything. However, the hospital found out, and they freaked out. They were like, no, he can't do this. Oh my God. And they were like having a conniption. They're like, all right, what we're going to do now is give him this many cc's of this medicine, that many cc's of this medicine. And
Wow.
my mom's like, no, you don't have to drug him. Just tell him he can't do that. Just tell him not to do that. So that's what they did. And I fortunately, that's one of the key things I talk about in support is you got to make sure you have an advocate. But as soon as I could get rid of the medication, the sooner I was able to continue to get better. Finally, P is persistence. Once you take your first step, keep getting up every day and taking your next step, no matter how small. By continuing to do something every day towards your recovery, you're building an unstoppable momentum. And the first 90 to 180 days are so critical. And this even comes down with the process that I used to start Common Goal. The first 90 to 180 days, I was doing something every day. It doesn't mean that I was having 12, 13, 14-hour days. And I don't need to sleep. It's not that at all. It's I was doing something, even on my days off, to go towards my ideal of being able to run out of the hospital, or in the case of starting Common Goal, just something to move the business forward every day. Less than 60 days later, I ran out of the hospital and I realized my goal. And it wasn't like the work was done though. I had to continue to go to outpatient therapy for another 6 months, along with being tutored all summer long, 5 days a week, in order to continue on to high school with the rest of my classmates. So with that, Steve, I'll take a step down off my soapbox and take a sip of water if you have any questions for me.
No, I'm not going to stop you. That was an incredible story. But one thing, and one of your common goals is a risk taker. You jumped off that mountain, so you like to work with people, the risk taker, and that's what the common goal is, right? Find the people that have your attitude, mindset, etc. Right?
Yeah, I don't think my mom would appreciate
No.
that
No, probably not.
observation, but it is I'm looking to work with people who can see themselves on the other side, and then see themselves on the other side of their life challenge, trauma, or setback. And I, using the step system, help them get through to the other side and be able to thrive with the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
love
not
Go ahead.
I'm not going to tell her. Don't worry. I'm not
No,
going to
well,
tell
we
her.
won't let her see this show,
Risk
but
taker.
and I get that, but I love that idea of common goal. Like we said in the green room, there's no common goal. You shouldn't work with them. You still love them, but you shouldn't. It's not going to be a fit. You don't put a circle into a square hole. It just doesn't work. But you talked about persistence, which I love. I talk about get better 1% every day. By the end of the year, you're up 200%. You're going to grow. Love that. But how important is habits to persistence?
Habits are very important. You have to now, they were long days for me. So it was long days in the hospital. And I can interweave this into the story a little bit. There were long days. I would start, just to give you an idea, I would start the day and my physical therapist would have to teach me how to shower again. So I literally had to learn everything again. I had to learn that, okay, the water comes before the soap, like things that simple, and how to swallow again and everything. And all throughout my recovery, I built those habits, and I just kept adding on top of those habits, where it got to a point during my recovery, and looking back on it, I can't believe that it really was only 60 days or less than 60 days from being in the hospital, coming out of the coma, being aware of my surroundings, and running out of the hospital. And that's because I was doing something, like adding to those habits, to kind of phrase it how you were, adding to those habits every day, to build that unstoppable momentum. That's right along with persistence, is to build upon those habits.
Nice thing is it's easy to do, and we're building habits not because we're in a coma, not because we came out of a coma. We just want to grow our business. So it's not as necessary as it was for you. You don't do those habits, you may not be alive, you may not be able to walk. So your risk reward is a lot higher, but it doesn't matter what that risk reward is. Doing those habits are so incredible. I'm glad you mentioned that, because people, I work out every day or work out 3 days a week and I can miss a day. You didn't miss a day, and look where you are today. How old were you, by the way?
Oh, I was 14 when I got my
you're really, wow, what an incredible story.
So I was 14, just to kind of paint the picture a little bit more. I was only 14 when I got in the accident. And really looking back on it, I even told my mentor this a few years ago. She was working with me one-on-one, and she asked, all right, so you read, and she's the one that helped me develop the step system and kind of pull it out of me, because she asked me, all right, you have this great story, you got in the accident, you were in a coma, and you ran out of the hospital. How'd you do it? I just said, I don't know. I just got up and kept working every day, and I don't know, I did it. And she's like, no, not good enough. And she kept asking me like 7 or 8 layers deep, to a point where I was like, I don't know. And I was that's obviously a little fake, me doing that right now, but I literally was frustrated, and I was just like, I don't know. And that's how the step system came into existence. She was able to pull it out of me, and I had to think back, all right, what was the steps that I did? And that's support, trust, energy, and persistence, and you got to make sure you have them on an even level. I said to her, yeah, anyone would do that. And it's just something that I did when I was growing up. She said to me, and I've had a lot of people say this to me, Nick, no, that's not normal. Because people feel that they could get frustrated and they could give up. To me, that was never, that possibility never entered my mind. It was just like, all right, something happened and you have to do that. That's really why if you fast forward several years, in 2012, Steve, I developed a voice issue. So I couldn't figure out what was going on, and I went to all these doctors and specialists, and I finally wound up in a voice specialist office in Boston in August of 2013. The guy walked in the room, heard me speak, and right away nonchalantly goes, "Oh, that? Yeah, we deal with it all the time. We'll get it fixed in no time.
Wow.
Go see the front desk and schedule a Botox injection in a couple weeks." And I was like, my mouth hit the floor. I was like, because no one could give me an answer. So starting in August of 2013, I had to get Botox injections in my throat in conjunction with their higher level voice therapists, to get my voice back. So I not only had to learn how to talk again once after my accident, I had to learn how to talk again twice. And once I went through that, then it was like, all right, I have something here. Like, I have a system, I have a way of getting through trauma that I have to share with the world. And that's really the whole impetus of Common Goal, the step system, everything like that. So it was actually after speaking in 2019 and telling my story, someone approached me and they said, hey, that was awesome, and I'm not looking to steal you from your dad, because I do real estate with my dad to this day, in a family business. I'm not looking to steal you. However, if you're ever looking to fine tune your message and bring it to another level so it can impact the most amount of people, I can introduce you to my mentor, who can help you do that. So I was still going through the voice issues for another year and a half after that. However, in May of 2021, I finally reached out to her and said, okay, I'm ready. Now, ever since my accident, I've always had this voice in the back of my head that's been saying, yeah, that's great, but what you really have to be doing is helping individuals that are going through trauma get through to the other side and thrive with the rest of their lives. Since I made that phone call in May of 2021, there has been no voice. So what that's evidence to me of is that I'm doing exactly what I was put on this earth to do.
It's a blessing. Oh my gosh. You know how many people would love to have that? And God bless you that you're able to do that. You know, what's the misconceptions of Common Goal that you've seen over these last couple of years?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, I mean, what, you know, the common goal is I go out and find 10 people, you know, what do people do wrong? What's the challenges? Let's just say it that way, with common goal and finding their common goal.
Sure. No, I understand. The first thing is paralyzed. People are paralyzed by the kind of mountain in front of them and the trauma and the turmoil in their lives. They're frozen. They're paralyzed with fear. And what I always say and what I always help people with is to take that first step, because once they take their first step, their next step is always going to be available to them. However, a lot of people don't take that first step, and they think, oh, well, they either have imposter syndrome. Oh, well, who am I to have a full recovery, or who am I to speak and tell my story? Who's going to listen to me? Imposter syndrome is a big thing, but I would say frozen with fear, paralyzed with fear is a big thing. That's where I see people not being able to move forward and not, frankly, willing to take that first step.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, because I didn't think about. I have a friend who had a stroke 4 years ago, and he was in a hospital for 2 years. And he's doing great right now. He's starting to learn to walk and all that, but he's doing the action steps, like you said. And that's why he's recovering. He didn't give up.
Mm.
You didn't give up, right? I think that's a big part of this too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it never, as I said, it never entered my mind. And that's why, even to this day, looking back on it, it never entered my mind that there was an option. There's an option where I could, when I was 14, just say, no, I'm all set. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the work. To me, that didn't exist. It was just, okay, this happened and I have to get better. It was never it just never occurred to me. However, when I was going through my voice issue, and I think I'm more proud of that because of the time it took, and the doubts that came in. So I can give you doubts with both scenarios. So during my accident, I was sitting after I get ready in the morning, I would have double sessions of physical, occupational, and speech therapy. So after my first set of sessions, I was in lunch in my room in my wheelchair. I was looking over my situation and I just couldn't figure it out. So I turned to my mom and I said, am I ever going to be able to walk again? Am I ever going to be able to walk again? And she looked at me and said, yeah, of course you are. That's why we're here. What do you think we are doing here? So you can get everything back and we can go home. So that was the only doubt that I had. And my advocate, my mom at the time, gave me the confirmation that no, okay, you're fine, keep going. However, so that wasn't even a big deal to me. I didn't even like consciously remember that until many years later. However, when I was going through my voice issue, I was an adult. I was living my life, and I had several points during that process after years of working at it where I was just like, oh my God, I've been working at this. I've been having to deal with this for years. What's going on? And every time I had that doubt, there were a few times I would just say, I would almost double down and just say, all you do what you can control, which is doing my voice exercises every day, and this is taking care of my energy, getting treatments. I term them as treatments, craniosacral massage, myofascial release, or Tui Na massage, which is basically a Chinese massage, and getting those treatments in between each time that I need a Botox injection. And then my voice was getting better each time. And the voice specialist said to me, on one of my last injections that I had to go to, he said, you're one of the only patients that I have that's every time I see you, even though you need an injection again, your voice has gotten tighter, your voice is better. And that's because you're doing both. You're doing both the medicine, the medical, and the natural. You're doing them together. He said that's why you're seeing success, whereas a lot of people will only do like medications, medicine, conventional medicine, go to the hospital, if I have an ache, go to the hospital, get a pill, fix it, or natural preventative medicine. Most people will either do one or the other. So natural preventative medicine, could never do medication, but you need to do both of them. That's where the magic is. I feel like there are so many people in one camp or the other, but you need to be in both.
Great lesson. Great lesson, because healthcare is a mess right now. We need positivity in healthcare. You're definitely a walking example. We're coming to the end here, but I want the audience to know who is ideal for the STEP system.
Anyone that suffered a trauma, life challenge, or setback and looking to get through to the other side. So I touched on it in this chat that we're having, Steve, but it's also so that's primarily who I'm looking to help. However, you can apply the STEP system to anything. It really mirrors being successful in life in general, like with starting Common Goal. This is what I've used to start Common Goal back in January of 2022. I've used this same system. So not only does it help you get through a trauma and get through to the other side, it helps with starting a business, really getting through anything.
Yeah.
Because there were several points where I'm like, it's not a straight up growth curve. It's business. You gotta keep going every day. And there, as you know, being a business yourself, there are moments where you get down on yourselves and you just gotta keep going.
Life is like business. They're parallel. They're different,
Mhm.
but they're parallel, ups and
Yep.
downs. And you learn that, you're way ahead of the game, and you teach that. How can people get a hold of you after listening to this incredible podcast?
Sure. So what we've talked about is really just a 10,000-foot view of the step system. And if they go to my website and they go to nickprefontaine.com/step, they're going to be able to go on and download the step system for free today. It really goes into detail, like each one: support, trust, energy, and persistence. They each have key points and bullet points within that. And anyone who's kind of frozen and doesn't know what to do, that's a great way they can take their first step today. And it's going to teach them all about support, trust, energy, and persistence.
I love it. This is fantastic. And Nick, let's bring you back on for part two. There's a lot more we can cover. You're doing some great things out there. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. There's so much more we can cover. We've only scratched the surface, Steve.
Well, absolutely. And I want to thank everybody for watching. Listen to this podcast. In 5 or 10 minutes, the podcast really resonates with you. Use the forward and reverse buttons and take that 5 minutes. And like he said, practice it, build yourself. And it's something that resonates with you. Maybe it's the step system. Understand it. It's the power of listening to a podcast. You don't need to listen for 2 hours. We'd love for you to listen to the whole thing or watch the whole thing, but if anything resonates with you, focus on that and help yourself grow and motivate yourself, inspire and educate you. Don't forget about my podcast swag. Get your hats, get your sweatshirts, get your hoodies that say doing business with a servant's heart, and let's spread that message around to the world. Don't forget about my TV show, Together We Serve, Fridays at 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern. I don't like those time changes, but we got to live with them for right now. And as always, I want to thank you all for listening to my incredible guest here, Nick. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart.